Voltaire once said, "The more I read, the more I felt I knew nothing." Have you ever picked up a book not knowing that the ethical dilemma inside was going to completely change your perspective? Well, I haven't read these books that I'm about to talk about today yet, but when I was researching common themes to kind of give this video a bit of an angle other than my October TBR, I found something kind of interesting. All of these books are kind of meant to challenge the way we see the world. If you're new here, I'm Steph, a lover of all things stories, who went from a 7-year reading slump into reading over 120 books last year. So whether you're reading for literary critique or just for enjoyment, books have a way of making you see the world in a new way. Here are the books that I'm reading in October that I'm hoping will help make me think in a new way with the presentation of the ethical dilemmas that they contain. Let's start with the books that I know I'll be reading for my book clubs. For the book club that I am in with my sister, we are reading Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. If I cannot inspire love, I will cause fear. The idea of a reanimated corpse was famously conceived by an 18-year-old Mary Shelley on holiday with her future husband and Lord Byron near Lake Geneva, Switzerland. The three were tasked with writing a ghost story, which resulted in one of the most famous novels to come from the 19th century. Published anonymously in a 3-volume series, Frankenstein instantly set the standard for a true literary horror, and its themes led many to believe that it was the first true science fiction novel. In 1831, and after much pressure, Mary Shelley revised the text to be more fitting to contemporary standards. Young scientist Victor Frankenstein, grief-stricken over the death of his mother, sets out in a series of laboratory experiments testing the ability to create life from non-living matter. Soon, his experiments progress further until he creates a humanoid creature 8 feet tall. But as Frankenstein soon discovers, a successful experiment does not always equal a positive outcome. So the primary ethical dilemma in Frankenstein stems from the idea of what happens when you have unchecked scientific advancement and what responsibility the creator has towards its creation. Now, I'm gonna admit, I am not typically a classics fan. I have dyslexia, so reading kind of dated language makes it difficult for me to enjoy a book. But Frankenstein has always been on my list of books that I've wanted to read at least once, so I'm happy to finally be getting to it. And the fact that we chose to read it in October is just some spooky Halloween fun. For the book club that I do online with some friends, we chose Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. A race for survival among the stars. Humanity's last survivors escaped Earth's ruins to find a new home, but when they find it, can their desperation overcome its dangers? Who will inherit this new Earth? The last remnants of the human race left a dying Earth, desperate to find a new home among the stars. Following the footsteps of their ancestors, they discover the greatest treasure of the past age, a world terraformed and prepared for human life. But all is not right in this new Eden. In the long years since the planet was abandoned, the work of its architects has borne disastrous fruit. The planet is not waiting for them, pristine and unoccupied. New masters have turned it from a refuge into mankind's worst nightmare. Now 2 civilizations are on a collision course, both testing the boundaries of what they will do to survive. As the fate of humanity hangs in the balance, who are the true heirs of this new Earth? From what I can tell, the ethical dilemma in Children of Time stems from the manipulation of evolution by mankind and what responsibilities mankind has towards creating artificial life. So I've had this book on my TBR for ages. I think it was one of the first books that was recommended to me by Andrew's Wizardly Reads when I first started watching his channel. But when I realized last month that I only really had one sci-fi book on my shelf, I've kind of internalized that I want to start making reading sci-fi a bit more of a priority. And honestly, my classical music geek kind of appreciates the fact that Adrian has the same last name as my favorite Russian romantic composer. I'm in 2 other book clubs, the book club with my roommate, and I just started a book club at my work, but I don't know what books we'll be reading in October as of the recording of this video. So let's move up to the challenge that I'm doing for myself to catch up on the magical readathons that I have missed since I went AWOL from BookTube. So first, I need to give a big shout out to Lucky Lolabug on Tumblr, who did this amazing character art for my magical readathon character Osmanthus. If you are interested in learning more about her artwork, definitely go and check her Tumblr that I've linked in the description box below. 2023 was the first year where we had the adventure map, and the first step was to turn left or right. I'm starting off by turning left, which means that I need to start a series because, you know, I needed more unfinished book series in my life. So I chose All Systems Red by Martha Wells. In a corporate-dominated spacefaring future, planetary missions must be approved and supplied by the company. Exploratory teams are accompanied by company-supplied security androids for their own safety. But in a society where contracts are awarded to the lowest bidder, safety isn't a primary concern. On a distant planet, a team of scientists are conducting surface tests, shadowed by their company-supplied droid, a self-aware sec unit that has hacked its own governor module and refers to itself, though never out loud, as Murderbot. Scornful of humans, all it really wants is to be left alone long enough to figure out who it is. But when a neighboring mission goes dark, it's up to the scientists and their Murderbot to get to the truth. All Systems Red explores the idea of autonomy and consciousness and the moral responsibility that creators have when they create something that's meant for a specific function but then becomes self-aware. I, of course, have seen this book all over BookTube, but I think the first person I saw ever recommend it was Books Like Whoa. And honestly, with my commitment toward reading more sci-fi and the controversy that's going on in the book community about AI, I thought it might be a good time to finally get into this series. Also, it's a novella, so it's short. And that will help considering I still have a couple books to finish from my TBR from September. So next on the adventuring map, I could choose to either go to a forest or go to the lake. So I went to my bookshelf and browsed the books until I found a cover that either had a tree on it or water. And I ended up with Convergence by Sharon Green. See, there's water right there, I swear. In a world of magical adepts, every 25 years, the 5 greatest talents must be brought together. For only this powerful union of strangers can prevent the prophesied return of the evil ones who enslaved the land. As one, they must stand against the odious treachery of past masters and confront a fearsome depravity that hungers for their world. From what I can gather, the main ethical dilemma in this book seems to come from the idea of personal rights versus societal control. So one of my best friends in middle school had this series. So when I saw it at my local used bookstore for $2 a copy, I picked up the whole series. I started reading it in middle school, but for whatever reason, I kind of fell off somewhere at some point in it. So I thought I'd give it another go. This is the kind of epic fantasy that I grew up on, so I'm kind of excited to read it. So after I got to the lake, surprise! A giant shows up and I have to fight it, which means I need to read a book that's over 500 pages long. The Murderbot choice makes more sense now, right? So I chose The Secrets You Keep by Chloe I. Miller. Nestled deep in the endless pine forests and powder white dunes of the Gulf Coast, it's a place like no other. A home where secrets are safe and family is everything. Welcome to Haven House. Evangeline Eddins despises change, preferring to live a life of routine safely inside the walls of Haven House. But when the sanctity of her home is violated, Evie has to accept that things can't always remain the same. This includes her relationship with Samuel Fairweather, the man once meant to become her stepbrother. The pair's love-hate relationship reaches a turning point as evidence found in a string of serial homicides leads authorities straight to their already fragile family. With the FBI at the door and their tumultuous past returning to haunt them, Samuel and Evie must decide which secrets to tell and which to keep before it's too late. So I think the ethical dilemma here is pretty straightforward in the idea of, is it morally right to keep secrets? I don't really know anything about this book. I'm just going through my Kindle in an effort to read the books that I already own. I'm thinking I picked this up during a Stuff Your Kindle event, but I chose it because it's the first book in my Kindle library that was over 500 pages long. So after fighting the giant, it's time for the 2023 spring term at Beryllium Academy. My calling is an herbologist. I mean, I kind of just decided to lean into the whole plant thing, which means that I had to read at least the prompts from the 2023 spring curriculum for alchemy and restoration. Alchemy's prompt was to read a book with metal in the title. So for that prompt, I chose A Demon in Silver by R.S. Ford. In a world where magic has disappeared, rival nations vie for power in a continent devastated by war. When a young farm girl, Livia, demonstrates magical powers for the first time in a century, there are many across the land that will kill to obtain her power. Duke Gotham's Tallyman, the blood-soaked Keltine Brotherhood, and cynical mercenary Justin Cade all are searching for Livia and the power she wields. But Livia finds that guardians can come from the most unlikely places, and that the old gods are returning to a world they abandoned. A Demon in Silver's ethical dilemma seems to stem from these ideas of power and the responsibility of having power. So this is another book that I'm going into completely blind. I picked it up on essentially a Stuff Your Kindle, but it was Stuff Your Audible days. So I've had this audiobook sitting in my library for a while. And when I was searching for something to fit this prompt, this was the only audiobook I had that had metal in the title. The prompt for restoration was kind of different. It wasn't like I needed to find a specific book to fit something. I had to do something, which was unique. And what I had to do was I had to close my eyes, shuffle, and point. So what I did is I took my Kindle and I kind of randomly scanned through with my eyes shut, and then I pointed to a place on the screen, and what I got was, actually, before I tell you what I got, let me know, what are you planning on reading in October? Or have you read any of these books? What did you think? If you just want to let me know that you're watching and not comment, you can leave me a pumpkin emoji. So what I got from that last prompt was Wicked Court by Alexi Blake. For as long as I can remember, I've had to hide who I am, what I am. They had me play the sheep. They had me blend in. They marked me and sealed my power. Now I have my freedom, because everyone who's ever wanted me confined is dead. I could have changed it. I could have altered the course of fate. I could have saved the unseelie queen. I didn't. Flari has always known her place, as far away from the court of the unseelie queen can send her. The youngest royal, born in an impoverished household, she endeavored to earn her keep as an assistant to stay out of trouble. Dark, striking, and with a hidden agenda, Drusk finally qualifies as trouble, but he refuses to leave her alone, clashing with her at every corner. Then the world implodes around her. With friends and foe by her side, she can fade with the rest of the Unseelie Kingdom, or protect a court that has never cared for her. I mean, just from the title alone, the ethical dilemma in this book seems to be very based around court politics, and I will admit, I am a sucker for a political drama. I've been really intrigued by kind of Fae court politics and all of that. My D&D campaign that I run for some family and friends involves, the Feywild and that kind of court political intrigue and drama. So this is up my alley. Does that make me basic? Yeah, probably. But I'm gonna own it. Let's see what stories tomorrow brings.